So I always encourage out-of-state investors to, before they find the property, before they're talking to turnkey guys, find your property manager first. You need to find, because you could buy a turnkey property that's running beautiful at closing, but if the maintenance and the tenants and the collections and all that, if that can't be maintained because the property manager that you bought a turnkey from, or he calls himself a property manager, your investment's going to go downhill fast. So I always tell people, find your property manager first. Your property manager can always even help you and advise you when you're working with these different turnkey. I use the word turnkey loosely, but these guys that are buying or selling leased properties to out-of-state investors.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke. We have a special guest today, Mark Ainley of Chicago, Illinois. Mark is an investor, managing broker, and property manager with almost 2 decades of experience in real estate. Today, we're going to talk about his success in the Chicagoland market, turnkey investments, and some property management. But before we go a little bit deeper, we're going to have Mark go a little bit deeper into his background and his experience and how he got started, and then we'll take it from there. So how you doing today, Mark?
I'm good. I appreciate you having me on, and I appreciate the intro. The word success you used, I don't think that's where I add value to other people's lives. It's more of my failures. I think, and I do like to give back, whether it be locally or nationally, to don't do this because this is what happened to me type scenarios. But you got to have successes or failures to have successes. So I like to try to pass on the lessons of the failures. But answer your question a little bit about me, how I got in real estate. We're in Chicago. And we have a very large market, so that's one thing I'm fortunate for. I'm not in a tertiary market that doesn't have as much opportunity. So I was just kind of luckily born into that part. But I got into real estate in my early 20s. I wanted to be somewhere on Wall Street, maybe a stockbroker growing up. Not really knowing what it was, but knowing Wall Street kind of had the attraction and the glitz and glamour, and kind of fell out of that concept, as like online trading and the kind of industry of being a stockbroker kind of went away in really the mid 90s. But, and then a bunch of older stockbrokers that told me that never to get into it. That was some advice that I followed. But, I bought my first property sort of on accident, kind of did what they call the modern day house hacking, and bought a house that I was renting from my dad. Dad sold it to me because he didn't want the liability of the fun 20, 21-year-old stuff I was doing there. And before I knew it, I had a few friends living there, and they were paying the bill and some. So I was living there for free, and I was watching my principal go down. So that made sense to me, the whole concept. Rolled into my first kind of true investment, bought a condo conversion, and this is where I got my first experience in property management, and swore off I would never do property management ever again when it was done. But bought a condo conversion, and we put it was very small, a couple $1,000s into it. Rented out. Took the first sad story out of the newspaper. It was newspaper back then. Didn't even have Craigslist yet, but I think it was 2002. If there was Craigslist or internet, I didn't know how to access it that easily. So. We put an ad in the paper, took the first sad story. It was a single mother, and she had a story, and I said, oh man, I can help this lady out. And
that's how it starts.
Before you know it, I think it was the first month's rent. That check didn't even clear the bank. We've learned that was one of my early lessons of I always collect certified funds when a tenant moves in. Never have any retractable mode, even credit cards. They can cancel those credit cards these days. So we're all about verified certified funds at move-in. But bounced it, found myself every other day driving over there, picking up $70, $120 at a time. And it was horrible. And we ultimately did with the modern day cash for keys with this tenant, got my first eviction experience. And we sold that property though. Now I swore out property manager there, but we sold that property, and I think we cleared about $35,000, which that was kind of my like, the bad thing about making a lot of money on your first deal is you think every deal is going to make a lot of money. And I think I went into my next couple deals, and I think I pretty much broke even on the next couple of flips that I attempted to do. So a lesson to anyone, sometimes you do get beginner's luck, but that was kind of how I got into real estate. And then, formed to kind of in that period of time between those two first properties, I got my real estate license. When I was swearing off property management, I countered that with, I'll just go sell to other investors. I'll find deals and I will take what I can't buy because I might have the money or financing capabilities, and I'll take it to other people that I know that can. Back then it was sort of 100% financing world. So you could get, as long as the guy had room on his credit, you could get him a property. So we got into that, and we were only selling to investors, and only selling to investors always created the opportunity of property management. And we fought it for a couple of years, and we never did property management. We always said, no, you can handle yourself, or go to this guy over here. And ultimately, it happened. Our property management really started at a closing table. I sold our attorney a property. Wow. And at the closing table, he said, Mark, I need you to manage this property. I said, no way, man. You're my attorney. You helped me evict that first thing. I'm horrible at it. He said, he looks me right in the eye. He says, Mark, don't worry about it. You learned that all on your dime. You know what not to do now. I said, Paul, I don't even know what to charge you. He's like, I'll pay you $50 a month. I said, Paul, you're an attorney. I don't even have a legal document. You're going to expect something. He's like, Mark, I'm fair. I'll draft something up for you. And that was our first property we took on. And we still charge him. He still owns that property. This is 2005. Wow. He still owns that property. We still charge him a legacy $50 a month. And we still use a modified version of that management agreement. So that's kind of how we got into that. Fast forward a little, 2008, we started buying properties ourselves. And since then, we've gone through a couple series of partnerships, but we did about 450 fairly call it 80% gut rehab type jobs, and really got learning about the whole construction industry and all that. So I think we've gone through the gauntlet of problems and all that with that, but we came out ahead, and we still probably have about 80 properties. We sold many of them off, and dabbled a little, and we got a couple commercial buildings now. Industrial, we're big fans of industrial. We're always been big fans of managing industrial. We finally had the opportunity to buy a couple of them the last couple of years. So,
yeah, very cool. I mean, shoot, it's what I would say that you have the full experience from actually owning it, managing it, the things that went wrong with it, the things that went well with it. You made money, you broke even. So that's like the perfect experience and kind of the segue to what you guys are doing now. So you guys manage over 450 units, and all different parts. Is it solely focused on what marketplace is it? South side of Chicago?
No, so we are actually about 900 units now, and we manage about 400 units south side and south suburbs. And then anyone familiar with Chicago, we manage about another 400 out west and northwest suburbs. And then we have about 110 or so. My numbers might be up, my math might be off, but 110 industrial units around O'Hare. So we really do cover a majority of, if you look at Chicago map, the 6-county area here.
Very cool. Yeah, my listener base and my investor base are all passive investors. They don't like dealing with tenants and doing all of the day-to-day stuff. So they go to folks like you to kind of lead them to the charge and handle everything for them. So you guys, I mentioned before in your intro that you work with a lot of out-of-state investors. I know like places like Connecticut, California, New Jersey, places that, the prices just doesn't make sense, that they can't cash flow. So I noticed that they're looking in different marketplace areas. So are you seeing an uptick in your marketplace, and kind of what are you noticing about that?
Yeah, definitely. It started probably about 2013 where we really saw the uptick in East and West Coast people coming into the Midwest looking for investments. And It was about a year or so. I always kind of put myself out there as a resource for Chicago and talking out of state guys. And that was even before we were really doing our turnkey model and too much property management in these turnkey neighborhoods. But yeah, no, definitely. About half our owners are out of state. Through the 2000 and we flushed through. So when the market crashed, our property management grew, but it grew by a lot of accidental landlords, we call them. So the people that I got to leave and I'm underwater, but I'm not going to walk away from my property. I just need to rent it for a few years to at least cover the payments. And those people have kind of either been converted to true investors or kind of, or we sold them, sold when the prices got to a point where they could actually sell. And all those owners have been replaced with the out-of-state investors. And a lot of them come from California and New York and mostly East and West Coast. And their numbers the numbers here in Chicago look sexy.
Yeah.
$100,000, just $100,000. The fact of spending only $100,000 to buy a property is not heard of anywhere else, as you know.
Absolutely. As far as because when I started out with house flipping, and I was kind of talking before we got started that a lot of investors kind of are experts in fixing them up and maybe flipping them to a retail buyer, but you guys specialize in flipping them to investors. But a lot of them are not really experts in the management side. Can you kind of give us your experience on like what makes you guys a little bit different than some of those folks who just buy and then they may not do a good job, doing the management and work with another investor?
Yeah, so I always encourage out-of-state investors to, before they find the property, before they're talking to turnkey guys, find your property manager first. You need to find, because you could buy a turnkey property that's running beautiful at closing, but if the maintenance and the tenants and the collections and all that, if that can't be maintained because the property manager that you bought a turnkey from, or he calls himself a property manager, your investment's going to go downhill fast. So I always tell people, find your property manager first. Your property manager can always even help you and advise you when you're working with these different turnkey. I use the word turnkey loosely, but these guys that are buying or selling leased properties to out-of-state investors.
You guys are just focusing on the just single tenant, like what type of square footage and how many units and stuff like that? How many what you guys are working on?
Yeah, so our specialty is really 1 to 4, and mostly I'd say probably the majority of it is single family home. We're big fans of single family home. From the development side, we can get in and out, and then I think management-wise, long-term, I think it's easier. I am a fan of the single-family home because now not all areas will appreciate. You're not supposed to buy stuff for appreciation necessarily, but a single-family home has a far better chance to appreciate just because it's not guarded by a cap rate. And you could call that even with a 2-flat, because especially here in Chicago, the big thing is owner-occupied 2-flats. So in one single family and 2-flats, you could get away with selling at a much lower cap rate because you're not looking for a guy that's purely an investor looking for 5 to 10% type of return.
Yeah. So as far as like some of the tips for investors that's going to be interviewing a property manager, there's some tips you can give us. Yeah,
I could talk on this one forever. I'll try speaking very high level in general, and if anyone ever wants to reach out, I've been wanting to kind of put together a thick list of this. But the big thing that we've learned over the years is, and I'll say that we've only really gotten good in the last 3 years, is really managing by the numbers. Our people are crucial. So when you're interviewing a property manager, talking to a property manager, you should be able to ask them questions like, what is your occupancy rate, and what is your average tenancy time, and what is your average cost, or what's your average time to rent the property out. What is I know we break down our maintenance to townhomes and condos versus single family. What percentage of our work orders are, I know for a fact that our townhouse and condos, our maintenance is only 9% of all our maintenance. That's only 9% of it goes towards that. So understanding those numbers is crucial. And you know what your collection rate is on average, or what it is really on a rolling 30. You know, we've started focusing on. So the big thing about property management, and this is probably one of the bigger takeaways, is really response time. About half the properties we take on are from, you know, an investor calls up and says, hey, I just bought this property, we manage it. But the other half is people that are firing their property manager and going to hire us because they're unhappy for whatever reason. And that unhappy for whatever reason is, you know, they're not responsive, or I have to manage the manager, or it, you know, I have to send an email twice before I get one response, and the response back is nothing. And we took that a few years back, and we said, man, all we got to do is just answer the phone and give people what we know and follow up with them, and we'll never lose clients. So
absolutely.
So we've even we've gone as far as we have a system in place that we track all of our response times by property manager for our owners. And then we also have, we do the same thing with our tenants as well too, because there's a huge customer service component of why that tenant renews. You know, these property managers charge a lease renewal fee, but that lease renewal fee, part of it built in is, hey, you provided such customer service to this person that they're wanting to stay now, or it makes our lease renewal process easier because they know that when they have a maintenance issue, they're going to get done, or they have a question about their internet system, how it's set up, someone's going to get back to them. So,
yeah, you guys mentioned systems. Are you using like Yardi or something similar to that to kind of streamline your management business?
So we started using AppFolio, I think, in 2015. Prior to that, we had something kind of built out ourselves, very simple software we built. And then we went into AppFolio, and as we grew, as we added employees, we were struggling with understanding where everyone was at in the process. So you could turn to a property manager and say, hey, you got 7 lease renewals that should be done here next week. Where are you at with them? And the property manager turns to you and says, yeah, I'll get them done, don't worry. But not even realizing that we have no way of telling if he's even started it, any of them. So, you know, our lease renewal process has 15 steps in it, and we've built out using a Podio platform, our own internal system. So we use an off-the-shelf system, AppFolio, that we really just use the accounting piece of that these days. And we've built all of our internal operations through Podio, internally and even externally, from sending out leases and lease renewals and property management agreements. So we're able to customize that. And with some changes, we can change it if we think of some better way to use it. And you just don't have that flexibility with the off-the-shelf type stuff. So it's been a huge game changer for our operations, kind of smoothing things out. And I just know there's not many other property managers that are using it. We actually went as far as we have sold and licensed out to one property manager as recent as this week, our first one, of selling that system off. It's a big gap in property management world right now of customizable software. And, you know, we're big on data, like I said before. So a lot of these softwares don't allow you to pull that data out that easy, having the whole open APIs to be able to export data. And we have to manually do that every day.
As far as like connecting with the tenants, do you streamline that process? Or are you guys still taking in like the incoming calls? Do you guys do like internet stuff where they go on your website, or are they kind of calling into the office, you know, like traditional?
Yeah. So the goal, you know, we try to give them as many options as possible. Not everyone is tech comfortable. So there always is the phone option, but we have the chat that we're able to use on our website. You know, we get about 2-3 inquiries a day. We have our chat that we have inside of our maintenance software that connects with a tenant text messaging. So our maintenance staff can coordinate with a vendor and a tenant and talk all on the same page and be able to manage that type of communication. And then also we have general text that we've built out into the software system that you could send out mass text messages, mass messaging, or individual messaging and so forth. So, yeah,
I think it's key. It's the systems. Because I own a couple units here, and also I did some management a long time ago, and I'm not even close to being on your level. I'm just kind of thinking of the questions of the stuff that we struggled with, and the times with some of the bigger units that we were managing, just managing the amount of supplies that we needed, like if it's extra stoves or fridges or, you know, supplies, instead of having the maintenance guy run out to Home Depot and paying retail price and stuff, and it was just kind of a mess. And the time for us to get it done took a long time and then it, caused a lot of problems. Do you guys have any different or similar systems like that?
Yeah, so we have an inventory system. It's minimal. I think we have about 30 items that we really keep, the smoke detectors. So I think every truck has about 30 items in it at any given time that we account for. They might have leftover pieces or parts that they keep, but we have a 24-hour maintenance line that the work orders come in, they get dispatched out fairly quickly. We try to have enough information going into a job. We do a lot of troubleshooting up front. So our maintenance system that we have, with YouTube videos, stuff like that, we do all we can to try to not have to go do maintenance, because then at that point we have to charge an owner. So we do all we can with troubleshooting. And then if we can't, we at least get enough information where, we'd like to be able to send our guy to Home Depot in the morning and be able to get stuff he needs for the day. Of course, that never is a perfect world system. But if we look at it this way, if we could eliminate about 9 stops a week, that's a huge amount of efficiency that we've created.
Yeah, the time is crucial, and it seemed like you guys, really locked that down. And like I said, that's just very important. Just kind of switching back to the investment side. I had a lot of conversations with investors regarding opportunity zones. Is that kind of a big topic that you're hearing, and are you guys taking advantage of things like that in the Chicagoland area?
So we have a lot of opportunity zones in the Chicago city proper and the suburbs. Us ourselves as investors, we've written a handful of offers on properties in opportunity zones. We've taken the opportunity to sell some of the properties we have in opportunity zones where we're able to. I think you have a lot more people looking in those opportunity zones right now, so it allows you to probably get a little higher pricing on it that we found. So. We haven't been too aggressive on offers on the buy side because we feel that people might be looking at it the same way as we are on the sell side. Opportunity zones have been a big thing around here, and we've done a little educating on it amongst our investors and passed on what we've learned and what we've been experienced with it.
Yeah, it's starting to take wind now that it's starting to clarify with the law and trying to see where you can't, but like I said, markets like for Chicago. So the markets that you're in now, are you also guys looking at expanding into other markets or picking up other projects as far as for management assignments?
So as far as markets go, we are solely and only planning on being in Chicago. I think our potential here is very small to what it could be. So we definitely, because of the footprint here and the amount of people and the amount of rental homes, we won't ever expand probably out of here necessarily. But as far as other projects go and bigger projects on the investment side, we've been looking. We're always looking. I think part of we have a hard time in retrospect we look at a deal now of how it might have looked 4 or 5 years ago. And it's the landscape's different. So we still underwrite. We've adjusted some of our underwriting, but our mentality is still a little 2015 and even longer before. But we're doing all we can to kind of find deals. Deals here in Chicago, the MLS isn't really an option anymore. And you have to find off-market deals, or we sell a bunch of stuff internally from investor to investor. Maybe someone needs out for a divorce or something like that, and we'll put it on the market and we'll sell it internally to another investor, and that's worked out good for us since we started that program back in October.
Very good. How's as far as the commercial side? You guys said you're owner of some industrial assets.
Yes. So we had the opportunity last year to buy. We started managing industrial property back in 2008-9. And we were taking most of the property management we were taking over from an industrial is stuff that was maybe built by the group of owners, or they've been self-managing for a long time and now they want to retire or spend half time in Florida. So we took over a lot of those between 09 and really 13. And we had the opportunity to have a couple partnerships wanted to, because they're partnerships, they weren't really scenarios where they give them down to the kids or whatnot, and they had to kind of break up the partnership. So we were able to buy 3 properties that we were managing already for a handful of years. So we knew these buildings pretty darn good, and we knew what we were getting into. So I kind of feel we're lucky in that sense that there's no better due diligence than managing it for half a decade.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have like how large is your staff? Like your hope for your company?
Good question. We have 21 employees, W-2 employees. Of that, 6 of them work in our maintenance, maintenance tech department. They're the field guys that are fixing stuff. We have a couple of runners that do the move out type reports and so forth. And then we've been working heavily for the last few years with virtual assistants. So on top of that number, we probably have another 9 virtual assistants that are mix of full and part-time that do a lot of, they're the ones that have to manually pull the data out of Appfolio to put it into our system. They're the ones that are helping us with the reporting our numbers. They're the ones that are handling the underwriting process. So some of them even answer the phones, the leasing line, and so forth. So
apologies there. So besides with the staff and everything, is kind of what your role is? Is it very active that you are not kind of like where do you want to kind of take it to the future? Is it more kind of streamline and focus more on investments, or focus more on the ownership side or the management side? Is there any parts you want to kind of expand?
So my role right now, I have 2 partners. I have one partner that heads up operations, the other one that he's really our construction guy and our bad cop. So we send him in when we need a bad cop. So, and my role is really new business and onboarding. So I'm always out there networking, doing podcasts, and doing education type pieces and meeting with investors and growing both our investment network and also our property management network. And that's what I do full time. And I really enjoy that. As far as our opportunity goes, we've slowed down on the investment side of things, not necessarily because we want to, because it got harder to find opportunity and we haven't deployed the resources to find properties. So we were doing, call it 50 units a year. And last year, I think we did in the mid 20s, and this year we'll probably do in the mid 20s. So that's still happening slowly but surely, but we put a lot of focus in the property management side of things. And I think, the property management industry is kind of in a very different time in its existence, in the sense of it's becoming more of a legitimate business. Technology is coming out. There's a bunch of field kind of support type companies popping up around it to be able to be better property managers. So we're really excited about that. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us here in Chicago. So we do focus a lot on that. And that's one of our probably unique things that we have on the property management side. I could talk to, if you came into the Chicago market, I could talk to you as a property manager, and I could talk to you investor. And I don't think there's really any other property managers in the city that are our size that have that ability.
Yeah, that's the thing that I really like about you, is that you got your hands in there. You are investors. You've seen both sides of the coin. So when you're actually talking to new clients or new investors, especially from out of state or international, they can really rely on your advice to kind of give them to the send them to the right area and make sure that their property is taken care of. So besides when you turn off the lights for the day, what does Mark do, like after work, or what's some of the stuff that you do in your free time?
So I have kids, 7 and 9. I'm coaching some soccer, and so I like hanging out with them. My boys in the whole Nintendo Switch, and that brings me back to the days when I was playing old Nintendo. Mm-hmm. So I do enjoy spending that time. I like to hang out just with the family in general. Reading, I'm big on reading, whether it be local real estate news or just anything kind of self-development type stuff that can make me a better person or a smarter person, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Is there a book you can recommend to our audience that you like?
Yes. So there's a couple books that I've read in the last year. I probably read about 15, 16 books a year, but Never Split the Difference. It's more of a negotiating type book. I don't know the author offhand, but it's written by an FBI hostage negotiator. It's awesome, and the stories are in it. It's really exciting. And then dichotomy of a leader. Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink is he's becoming kind of on the forefront of business leadership, and he's got a couple of good books, and that's one of his more recent ones. He's got a good podcast as well too.
Mm-hmm. With the many hats that you wear in your company, kind of what's your morning routine to kind of get started, organize your day?
It's not check emails. I've learned recently that the worst thing I can do when I wake up is I used to roll over with one eye open and see what came in overnight on my emails, and that I realized right away that that was taking control of my day. If some jerk sent me an email overnight or something like that I was worried about, and then it became about that. So I've learned to I get up pretty early, so I'm up in the 4 to 5 range. Work out a couple times a week. Otherwise, I will not open my email till I get to the office a couple hours later. Or even so, I will try to work on those bigger projects I can before I start opening my email and kind of attack that. But it's working out for me is something that I got back into last year, and it kind of helps me focus on better eating. Helps me, I got this Fitbit. It sounds stupid. I got this Fitbit, and I love. It's entertaining to me to count my steps and try to get 10,000 steps a day. So consciously health then it helps me. It propels into the business side that I'm more efficient, effective, and just kind of happier. Yeah,
I totally agree. Do you work out in the morning or after work?
I got to work out in the morning. So I do roll out of bed and go right to the gym. That's what I do.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, same with me. If I don't start the day that way, it's like, like I say, with the eating, it kind of forces you to eat because, you're like hungry afterwards, you're eating. So I totally agree. So how do we get in touch with you? Like I mentioned, we got a lot of investors scattered all over the country, and then if they want to see opportunities or, get more advice from you, how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm hoping you leave my email in the show notes, on our website. I'm always happy to put my cell phone out there if you're okay with that.
Yeah, anything you want to shoot.
Yeah, 630-781-6744 is my cell phone. And I am bad at returning messages, so always text me. But if I like to put myself out there as kind of a resource for Chicago, and kind of talk to people and point them in the right direction. Because no matter what, being a big city, that means there's big opportunity to be swindled and different BS that happens here with the various parts of real estate. So I always like to talk to people. Maybe we can help them, maybe we can't, or I can at least point them in the right direction and connect them with the right people. So I kind of pride myself as being a connector.
Yeah, I'm glad. Like you said, it's Chicago is a huge market. It's different sub-markets, different things you got to worry about. So having someone that's boots on the ground with your type of experience is key, even just to point them in the right direction. But I'm glad that we got some advice from you, some good tips. Hope we can be able to connect later on in the future. And enjoy your day, and look forward to talking to you again in the future.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwaineLClarke.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.